In this video, I want to discuss Dr. J. Richard's 7th chapter in the book, Doesn't Capitalism Lead to an Ugly Consumerist Culture? Remember, we've been looking at 8 myths that he talks about in the book, the first one being the Nirvana myth, comparing capitalism with an ideal that doesn't even exist out there. Then there was the piety myth, the idea that good intentions are all that really count. There's the zero-sum game myth, the idea that if some win, others must lose. The materialist myth is that wealth is static, it can only change hands, so if some have it, they must be taking it from others. The greed myth is that the essence of capitalism is just greed. The usury myth, which is what we looked at last time, that's believing that working with money is inherently immoral, or charging interest on money is always exploitive. Today we're going to look at the 7th myth, the artsy myth, confusing aesthetic judgments with economic arguments. The point of this chapter is that a lot of people, when they think of capitalism, they think of a lot of really negative situations in our society today with these, urban sprawl, with strip malls, with everything kind of becoming homogeneous and all looking the same, including, for example, hamburgers, all from McDonald's, everything is the same and bland and so forth. And they often also think about marketing schemes and promotion to consume. And so many people in their minds associate all of those negative things with capitalism. Even the idea that many of our people are obese today. The poor are obese. Many people are obese. We eat too much. We buy too much. We consume. We have these landfills where we throw all our trash. We make products deliberately that will go obsolete within a year or so, so we have to always buy more. And we have all this advertising trying to get you to buy, and you buy presents for your kids on Christmas, and then they throw them, they're bored with them by the end of the week. And so a lot of people have a problem with this. They're worried about it, and they feel bad about it, and they think that it's capitalism. And so we have the response today of many people who are trying to get back to the land, or they're trying to get back to the organic stuff, or they're trying to just buy locally and they want to eat free-range chicken and stuff like that. Some people even, like Green Acres, they want to go out and buy a farm somewhere and get back to nature. You got some prominent liberal Christians like Jim Wallace who talks about the commodification of everything, that it's all just marketing and sales and promotion, and everything's reduced to what'll sell on a television show. And so people on the right and the left, Richard says, bemoan all of this and speak against it and talk about consumerism, and they diagnose consumerism and the symptoms of it and so forth. But what Richard says is they got some of the diagnosis correct, but they're calling the disease the wrong thing. They call it capitalism, and they're really conflating issues and mixing things together. Now, the Bible doesn't talk about consumerism. It does talk about gluttony. And so Richard spends some time talking about what is gluttony. It's excess. It's immoderate desire. But that's kind of a difficult thing to discern properly, because what is gluttony? What is excess? What is too much? Some people could say that basically almost every American goes to excess. We have more clothes than we need, more food than we need. We have 2 cars instead of 1. We have maybe more than 1 TV. So when is it excess? When is it sinful? And of course, the bottom line is we can't really tell about another person and judge another person's heart. It is an issue of the heart, and it is sinful when it becomes a god, when it becomes all-consuming, when it's our focus, when it's our meaning or purpose in life. We're buying to give ourselves meaning or make ourselves feel good. Then it's a sin, but we can't necessarily judge that in others, and we don't believe that it's right to just say, having some good things in your life, having more food than you need to eat or more clothes than you need to wear, having 2 cars is necessarily sinful. I mean, many times the Bible speaks about prosperity being the blessing of God. There's no doubt that in American society we get caught up in consumerism. We are often foolish when we're the targets of marketing schemes. We end up buying things we don't need and getting into consumer debt and so forth. But the problem here is with the artsy myth that we often, as I say, conflate issues. And we think that the materialism, the marketing, and the excess is materialism, and it's not. That's really like blaming the internet for pornography. Capitalism is an economic system. And the fact that in this economic system, some people go too far and get into materialism and so forth, that's not the fault of the economic system. As I say, the internet is a good example. The internet has tremendous potential for good, but it also has potential for evil. There's pornography on the internet. There are weapons that are sold. Terrorist plots are worked out on the internet. So we could, say to ourselves, we need to get rid of the internet because there's pornography on the internet. There's all these terrible things on the internet. But that would be foolish, wouldn't it? Because that would throw out the baby with the bathwater. You'd lose all the good things that come from the internet. Freedom doesn't cause us to choose the wrong thing. It just allows us to. The internet allows us to do great things or evil things. What makes the difference are the choices that free will agents make. And so you can't conflate the issue of the many different negative things of our modern society, of materialism and gluttony and so forth, and say that capitalism is causing that. And by the way, every social ill that we have in America was just as bad in Stalinist Russia. I mean, alcoholism, abortion, family breakdown, that happens in every kind of government and in every kind of financial system. And so it's not just economics that causes these things. What we need to understand is an economic system doesn't make people virtuous or non-virtuous. It's just an economic system. The problem today is we're confusing the two. We're thinking that all these negative effects we see around us are the result of capitalism. I like this quote that he had here. Contrary to the stereotype, capitalism is not compatible with a vicious populace, and the word vicious there means characterized by vice. Capitalism is not compatible with vice. Consumerism in particular is actually hostile to capitalism, at least in the long term, and thinkers as diverse as Max Weber and Karl Marx understood that. Capitalism and overconsumption can't long coexist. In his famous book, The Cultural Contradictions of Capitalism, Daniel Bell worried that the Puritan culture of restraint that gave birth to capitalism had been lost, leaving a culture of hedonism, where mere pleasure has become the purpose of life. Left unchecked, this hedonistic culture, he predicted, would destroy capitalism. See, that's very important. Capitalism actually requires financial habits and institutions that allow wealth to be reinvested. It requires that wealth not only be created, but that some of the wealth be saved rather than consumed. Delaying gratification is restraint, and that's the opposite of gluttony. So consumerism is actually hostile to capitalist habits and institutions. They're not the same at all. Nevertheless, a lot of people still think capitalism causes these ugly things that we see. And they even say capitalism is destroying our traditional way of life. It's destroying local cultures, and that capitalism leads to the cheap kinds of art that we have nowadays, and crude music and architecture and so forth, because it's all just commercialized, commodified. You need to make money, make it cheap. And so instead of having beauty and really great art, workmanship and art, capitalism has produced ugly stuff, ugly buildings, ugly, cultures and societies and music and everything. And capitalism is the enemy. It's just wrong. It's confusion. It's wrong. Richards, I liked this. He talked about how in 1999 he was in Seattle when the WTO met there, and all these protesters came, and they were, vehemently protesting the World Trade Organization, and they were so opposed to it. And he went out amongst the crowds and he asked them questions and stuff, and came to find out that a lot of the people didn't even know what they were doing. They had all these different views of what they were protesting and stuff. But pretty much everybody was agreed that, well, we may disagree on a lot of stuff, but we all know capitalism is wrong and globalization is wrong. And we're becoming a Walmart nation, and we need to be a farmer's market kind of nation. And we need to buy local and all that kind of stuff. He found that that's just very common in the Northwest of the United States, in a lot of liberal areas. And Richard says, hey, you know what? Buying local, that is good. I mean, if you want to buy, tomatoes and stuff like that, you should buy locally grown tomatoes. They're a lot better, But he says, applied to everything, the advice to buy local ignores most of the lessons of basic economics. I mean, if that was really correct, just buy local, it would have been better if the United States had just traded within the original 13 colonies and not gone beyond. And then he says, actually, come to think of it, it'd be better if cities just traded within the city limits. It'd be better if families just traded within families. Wait a minute, it'd be better if individuals just traded with themselves. And he says, hey, this is absurd. And the fact is, like he talked about in the earlier chapter about the trading game, the more trading partners you have, the more advantageous it is. And so if somebody in another county makes something better than we do in our county, we should buy their stuff if it's cheaper or better and try to find out what we can make better and sell it to them. It's just the local thing breaks down. It doesn't always work. And to prove it, he cites a situation where a professor named Kelly Cobb at Drexel University, she actually decided to do an experiment to see what it would take to design and make a man's suit complete with tie, socks, and shoes, with all materials coming from within 100 miles. And she got all these students and all together. And she lived in an area that was populated. They had cities, farms, and ranches. Yet she says this, the suit took a team of 20 artisans several months to produce, 500 man-hours of work in total, and the finished product was ugly. She said it looked like, what the town drunk would wear in an old Western movie. Not only that, but some 8% of the outfits, despite her best efforts, they still had to get about 8% of the materials from outside the 100-mile radius. And the suit would have cost a fortune. And you could buy, Richard says you can buy suits, from Joseph A. Banks or from, Hong Kong even. That's all they do is make suits, and they're cheaper, they look better. The idea we just got to buy local and all this commodification and globalization is terrible, it's just not true. And Richard says this, which I thought was funny. He says, look, Walmart grew not because Sam Walton made a pact with the devil, okay? It grew because he figured out how to, sell larger amounts, buy larger quantities at a time, and it could drop the price. And so it wasn't evil, and people didn't have to buy there. They bought there because it was cheaper and they could get better products. And people didn't have to work there either. So it's not that they made a pact with the devil. It's just it was a wise commercial move. And the thing is, people think we're going to be a Walmart nation. No, because while some things are growing bigger and all like Walmart, other things grow smaller, and some things are better smaller. And you don't have to worry. It's not going to become a Walmart nation. Sometimes the great big companies aren't as flexible. They can't change direction as fast and make decisions as fast, so they end up losing out. And, even in big business like petroleum, some smaller companies actually got ahead of some of the bigger companies because they were able to move faster and make decisions and so on. So we don't have to worry about that. But when operations get big, they get big not by getting evil, but by serving customers. So then in the rest of the chapter, he talks about the fact that, people bemoan globalization and capitalism and everything, but they don't realize how much good it has done for all of us. Yeah, there's some negative effects we see, but those effects just come from the wrong character, moral failures, and so on of people. In itself, capitalism has been a blessing to us. Far fewer people have to work on farms now, and they can produce a whole bunch more food. If we went back to the old days, millions of people would starve, And, a lot of people speak nostalgically about being out on the farm and all that, but let me tell you, it ain't that easy. It's backbreaking work. And we're so prosperous in America, you can buy a little farm maybe and do it if you want to, but thank God most of us don't have to. And the thing is, a lot of people talk about, this is so big, it's big business, it's ugly, it's no longer quaint, it's not, they don't have the little farms anymore, and the artisans and the craftsmanship and so on. And he says, you know what, beauty is not, he quotes some guy who says that beauty is always more important than efficiency. And he says, hey, if you're doing a wedding, the beauty of the place settings and all is important. But if you're bringing in food to save people after a tsunami, you don't care about the flatware. Beauty is not always the most important. And if you think about it, human beings are the most beautiful thing God ever made. And producing a lot of food so that you can feed more human beings, that's a beautiful thing. It's not an ugly thing. You don't have to conflate the negative effects of materialism and capitalism. They're two separate issues. So all this nostalgia about the good old days and all, a lot of times it's a myth. The good old days weren't so great after all. Change, as they say, is the only thing you can really count on. Change is the only constant. Yeah, sometimes different lifestyles go by the wayside. The whaling industry and all that lifestyle that went with it has gone by the wayside. But hey, do you want to go back to hunting whales so that we can have light, oil to burn lamps at night? It went by the wayside, but we got something better. And a lot of things are like that. Yeah, some of the old ways go by the wayside and we miss it and we think about it nostalgically. But usually it's for the better. In the end, we find a better way and things end up being better. Again, I refer to the internet. Think about the internet. Yeah, there's pornography on the internet. Yeah, people prepare to do, riots or terrorist acts or whatever on the internet. But you want to throw out the internet because of that? No, there's tremendous potential. So he ends with this quote. I want to read this one long quote. The cultural critique of capitalism reduces to little more than aesthetics masquerading as economics. Good tastes don't suspend the truths of economics. Moreover, it's the materialist worldview that denies the divine and not capitalism that is the greater driver of ugliness in modern culture. By pursuing the wrong villain, Christians squander their energies, which could be better spent battling the real culprit, an insidious worldview that denies the great truths of Christianity, truths that led to the greatest flowering of art and architecture, both high and common, that the world has ever known. So the artsy myth is a myth. It's the idea that capitalism is ruining beauty and art and society and culture and all that. It's not. Capitalism is just an economic system, and a lot of people are selling beautiful things in the economic system, still creating, and a lot of great benefits have come from all this. People are mixing up the issues. Now, in the next session, we'll look at the last chapter of the book, in which Dr. Richards discusses whether or not we're using up all the natural resources, because that's kind of the final big argument. Capitalism is causing us to consume everything, and we're going to run out of food, and we're going to run out of petroleum and everything. And so I hope you'll stay tuned for that, because it's a very important subject to discuss and very important issue, and Richards has some really good points on that. Till next time, may the Lord bless you and prosper you as your soul prospers.